Everyone, welcome. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for this explainer. Today, we're taking a journey through some of the most unexpected geographical, cultural, and historical connections on our entire planet. We're going to look at the world not just as a static map, but as this deeply woven tapestry of strange rules, massive natural phenomena, and wild human quirks. Okay, let's dive into this.
Now, what could a massive volcano in Peru, a bucket of fried chicken, and a tiny green Jedi Master possibly have in common? I know, it sounds like the setup to a really strange joke, right? But I promise you, by the end of our time together, you'll see exactly how these seemingly random, totally disjointed facts piece together to shape our bizarrely interconnected reality.
So, to really understand our world, let's kick things off with Section 1, Bizarre Laws and Geopolitics, from brooms to the UN. Because to figure this all out, we first have to look at those invisible lines we draw on our maps and the frankly surreal situations that human-made boundaries and rules create.
Take 150 meters, for example. That's about 500 feet. Now, in the landlocked African country of Eswatini, this is an absolutely crucial legal altitude limit. Why, you ask? Well, because it's literally the maximum altitude allowed for flying a broomstick. Yeah, you heard that right. Any witch caught flying their broomstick above this limit faces arrest and a massive fine. We're talking the equivalent of just over $30,000. But hey, don't worry, there is absolutely zero penalty for flying below 150 meters. Kind of wild, right?
And you see, different nations govern themselves with these incredibly extreme specifics. Just look at Singapore. You can't just run for president on a whim there. Nope, their constitution actually requires you to have at least 3 years in a high-ranking government job or be the CEO of a company worth at least $500 million. Meanwhile, India went a different route, meticulously laying out its laws in the world's longest written national constitution, sitting at a staggering 145,000 words. That's like reading a massive novel. And then there's the sheer unpredictability of national wealth. Take Botswana. They hit a staggering 12.93% GDP growth in 2021, the highest of any sub-Saharan country, before global inflation dragged that expectation right back down to 4%.
Let's move on and see how this builds into the broader world of international relations, because honestly, it ranges from the genuinely heartwarming to the utterly absurd. On the heartwarming side, we've got the 1999 earthquake diplomacy. After Greece and Turkey were hit by successive summer earthquakes, they actually agreed to help each other out, setting aside historically bad relations to save lives. It was a real game changer. But then, you have 2009. That year, Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi genuinely submitted a proposal to the UN to completely abolish Switzerland, literally just divide its land among Germany, France, and Italy. The UN threw it out, obviously. And get this, that very same year, KFC sent a letter to the UN asking for membership as the grilled nation. They claimed to represent 60 million customers, even offering free chicken across the street from UN headquarters. Unsurprisingly, they were denied too.
Sometimes geopolitical dreams just do not last. 28 days. That is the incredibly short lifespan of a country called the United States of Central America. Back in 1898, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua formed this union. Their constitution went into effect on November 1st, but just 28 days later, a military coup in El Salvador completely dissolved the whole shebang.
Actually, that failed UN bid by KFC perfectly segues into our next topic. We've looked at political borders, but what about corporate borders? Let's explore Section 2, Fast Food Geography, a corporate footprint, and see how the fast food industry creates its own bizarre global map.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast in global economics. Just look at Iceland. 0 McDonald's. They actually had them starting in 1993, but the Great Recession skyrocketed import prices so much that McDonald's completely abandoned the country in 2009. The very last burger purchased there is literally preserved and housed in a hostel in southern Iceland. Contrast that with the tiny nation of Andorra, which boasts 5 McDonald's for just 80,000 people. That gives them the most McDonald's per capita of literally any country on Earth. Talk about extremes.
And then you have the ultimate clash of the ancient and the modern. If you travel to Giza, Egypt, you can sit down in a KFC or a Pizza Hut and enjoy a direct, stunning view of the Great Pyramids. It's a fascinating look at how human civilization names and places things right on top of history. Speaking of weird naming conventions, did you know the country of Moldova has a mall simply named Moldova? Or that in Park City, Utah, you can visit a park literally called the Park City City Park? We humans are a funny species for sure.
But let's take a breath and shift gears for a second. Let's move away from human-made corporate absurdity and look at Section 3, Earth's geological extremes, the scale of nature. because the physical canvas we're all living on is just awe-inspiring.
So consider this. The Puerto Rico Trench is the single deepest point in the Atlantic Ocean, plummeting 5.2 miles down into what's called the Milwaukee Deep. But it hides an invisible secret that literally messes with human technology. Why does the Puerto Rico Trench mess with our navigational instruments?
Well, the answer is a gravity anomaly. According to NASA, beneath this 800-kilometer-long trench lies a mass so incredibly dense that it creates a greater gravitational pull than there should be in that exact location. It's the biggest gravity anomaly on Earth, and this invisible deep-sea force is strong enough to have a negative effect on the accuracy of navigational instruments passing right over it. Nature's power is truly staggering. And the scale of our geography is equally mind-blowing on the surface. The United States' largest state, Alaska, is just completely dominant. It's physically larger than the next 3 largest states combined: Texas, California, and Montana. That's a massive amount of land. But the extremes of the U.S. don't stop there. Think about Hawaii for a second. A tropical paradise where it's warm year-round, right? Yet, at its highest elevations, this tropical island state still experiences the occasional blizzard. Crazy to think about.
Geography also shapes some incredible cultural anomalies. Consider the island nation of Mauritius. 48.5% of its population is Hindu. Because of its unique historical migration patterns, this makes Mauritius the only country in the entire continent of Africa where Hinduism is the most followed religion.
Our environment is vast, vibrant, and constantly shifting. Take Lake Michigan. It is currently blanketed by an estimated 300 trillion invasive mussels. And incredibly, that's actually an improvement from its peak of 480 trillion. Or look at the Danube River. It just ignores all our human borders, passing through 10 different countries, which is the most of any river in the world. Over in Vietnam, the Mountain River Cave, which was only discovered in 1991, has a collapsed roof that lets in so much light it literally contains its own rainforest inside the cave. And in China's Taklamakan Desert lies the world's largest actively flowing alluvial fan, a massive sprawl of sediment over 60 kilometers long.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how much our world has changed over time. Imagine this. 340 million years ago, a massive mountain range began forming on the supercontinent of Pangaea. By 295 million years ago, it reached its peak height, rivaling today's Himalayas. But as the continents drifted apart, that singular, massive range just split. Today, those ancient peaks are divided into the Appalachian and Ouachita Mountains in the US and the Little Atlas Mountains thousands of miles away in Morocco. It's like a giant puzzle. But Earth's natural scale isn't just a matter of awe. It carries immense and sometimes deeply tragic power. Between 13 and 15,000 years ago, an ice dam holding back Lake Missoula, which contained 500 cubic miles of water, broke roughly 40 different times. This caused catastrophic flooding across what is now Montana, Washington, Idaho, and Oregon. Even in modern times, geography can be lethal. In Cameroon, Lake Nyos is considered the deadliest lake in the world. On August 21, 1986, the lake literally exploded, shooting water 300 feet into the air. But the water wasn't what was deadly. It released 1.2 cubic kilometers of carbon dioxide in roughly 20 seconds. This massive, invisible wave of gas sadly suffocated 1,746 people in a single night.
Living on a planet this massive, dynamic, and sometimes dangerous, we humans have always desperately tried to label, map, and adapt to it. And as we'll see in our final section, Section 4, Historical Blunders and Quirks, Rewriting Reality, we often get it hilariously or tragically wrong.
You see, early map makers fundamentally shaped our understanding of reality, often blending breakthrough science with total myth. Consider Juan de la Cosa's map from the year 1500. It was the very first nautical chart to depict the equator and the New World. It was absolutely groundbreaking. Yet, around the exact same time, cartographers were actively placing the mythical city of gold, El Dorado, onto 16th and 17th century maps, frequently labeling it as Manoa. They were literally mapping out fantasies right alongside these brand new realities.
And local cultures have always brilliantly adapted to the specifics of their local environments. The tiny island nation of Tuvalu consists of 9 islands, right? Yet its name translates to 8 standing together. Why? Well, because pre-European contact, only 8 of those islands were populated. The name perfectly reflects their historical reality. Or look at modern Bangladesh, a highly flood-prone country situated on the Ganges Delta. Farmers there are constantly adapting. Because frequent flooding was wiping out poultry farms, many chicken farmers have resourcefully switched to raising ducks. For the simple reason that when the farms flood, the ducks will just float. That's just genius. Sometimes, though, our attempts to adapt and label the world reach comical levels. In China's oldest national park, which, by the way, also features the world's longest glass bridge, there is a 3,544-foot vertical pillar that was once called the Southern Sky Column. But in 2010, they renamed it the Avatar Hallelujah Mountain to boost tourism, inspired by the blockbuster film. The great irony here? The Chinese government actually banned the movie Avatar. And speaking of print blunders, in 2017, the Saudi Arabian government had to issue a public apology when an official school textbook accidentally published a historical photo of the late King Faisal signing the 1945 UN Charter with the Star Wars character Yoda hilariously photoshopped sitting right next to him. You can't make this stuff up. So, the crucial point is, we can laugh at Photoshop Jedi and fast food diplomacy, but the profound interconnectivity of our world is very real, and sometimes it's devastating. 2 million. From the years 1601 to 1603, 2 million Russian citizens, which was nearly one-third of the country's entire population at the time, died of starvation. Their crops were completely destroyed because the sun was obscured by massive clouds of volcanic ash. But where did that ash come from? That volcano was located all the way over in Peru. An eruption in South America starved a third of Russia. It's almost hard to wrap your head around. So I want to leave you with this thought. If the physical environment of our Earth is so deeply tied together that a Peruvian mountain can literally alter the history of a European empire, what invisible threads are connecting you to the rest of the world today? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the map and keep exploring.